Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the xDuoo MU-603, and this is the xDuoo MT-602. And these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Linsoul for providing the MU-603 for review, and I want to thank my member on my Discord server and friend of the channel for providing the MT-602. Both of you rock. I greatly appreciate it. All right, so the xDuoo MU-603 comes in at $120. This is a Bluetooth only DAC. On the front, you get a power switch, a couple of LEDs, and a pairing button. On the back side, your Bluetooth antenna, your power input, and two RCA outputs. That's it. On the MT-602, this is $100, and it has a gain of 15 dB. Output power is 1300 milliwatts at 32 ohms, and it is a tube transistor hybrid amplifier. On the front end, you have a 3.5 input, 1/4 inch and 3.5 outputs for headphones, a bright red volume pot, and a power button. On the back side, you have RCA in and RCA out for the preamp, so you can use it with powered speakers or another external amplifier. The glow that you see on them is not generated by the tubes, it is generated by LED lights. Let's start with the DAC. Let's turn it off so I can hold it a little closer. The DAC itself is interesting because, as I said, it is Bluetooth only. Bluetooth only is kind of odd. I'm not much of a Bluetooth user. I tend to use USB input or coaxial fiber optic or SPDIF in. So being Bluetooth kind of limits the usage for me. I did connect it to my phone and to my DAPs, and also to my PC through Bluetooth. It connected very easily, found it, and it stayed connected. Had about 10 meters or roughly around 30 feet of distance, even though I didn't walk it very far because you have a power cord attached. But it does stay connected nicely, and it remembers it very easily, and you're just able to, as soon as you turn it on, it's connecting to your device. As far as sound, it uses a 12AU7 tube, and it has a ES9018K2M DAC chip. It's an okay sound for Bluetooth. It has a decent warmness to it. It's got a little bit of a warm, lush, romantic type of sound. A little bit bloated on the bottom end in the bass, but it's got decent details. It's just a little bit on the thick side and bloated. The mids have nice warmth to them, good amount of just overall enjoyment in vocals and instruments, has good tone and timbre. And then the treble is slightly rolled off. It's a little bit rounded. Overall, the whole sound of the MU-603 is a little bit on the rounded side. It has an okay soundstage. It's not the widest soundstage. And it also has a struggle with depth and layering. It kind of sounds a little bit compressed and a little bit thick, and it lacks some separation. Overall, it's not a bad sound, but it's not the best sounding DAC that I've heard, especially at this price point. You can definitely do better. As far as the tube, when you roll the tubes, it doesn't really make a difference. There's a very subtle differences in the different tubes that I tried, and overall it just was kind of like there for the glow. It didn't really make a difference for me. MU-603, very strange device, Bluetooth only. Tube really didn't make an impact on the sound, and it's an okay sound. The amplifier, we'll turn it off, so give you a closer look here. The amplifier is decently powered. You can pretty much power anything that you want. That is fairly easy to drive. Did drive Hifi and Sundaros, even though it wasn't the best driven that I've heard them on. They did lack a little bit of refinement and a little bit of body, and it turned them to be a little bit shrill up top, but it did power them. And it was okay with Sennheiser HD600s and Sennheiser HD660Ss. Didn't work very well with IEMs, and it caused most of my IEMs to hiss, so I do not recommend it that way. It was very, very much a too high of output impedance, and there was a little in the background all the time with them, no matter if the volume knob was down. Another curious thing was if you had music flowing through a DAC that you were using that you had plugged into the 602 and you had the volume turned off, it did not matter. You could still hear it playing. Slightly. Don't know exactly what caused that. Also, if you tap anywhere on either of the devices, you can hear it ringing in your earphones. On the backside, the pre-out did work with powered speakers. I used it with my Monoprice MM5Rs. Sounded okay. Was a little bit on the lean side, so I did have to boost up the EQs just a little bit and mess around with the tone controls of the MM5Rs to get it to sound proper. And as far as with headphones, it has a very, very anemic bass. And so if you use headphones that are already starting to be anemic bass, they're going to sound extremely anemic with the MT-602. It just doesn't have much bass impact whatsoever. It rolls off fairly early, and it's just very thin sounding, lacks impact, has decent tone, decent timbre, and okay amounts of detail, retrieval, and resolution, but it just has no body to it and no impact. It's just very thin sounding and extremely early roll off. The mids are again very thin sounding, and they don't have a lot of body to them. They have good tonality and they're pleasant to listen to. It just has no body to it. It just doesn't have any weight to it. And then the treble is very tipped. These are definitely upper, mids, and treble present. They really come through, and in that lower treble, upper mids region, there's a lot of sharpness, a lot of edginess, very, very, very energetic in that region, and it can be fatiguing very quickly. It doesn't matter what level of volume you have it at. And then treble wise, when you go into the treble, it's extended, and it just has a thinness to it, and it can get into hot mode really quickly. Swapping out the tubes did not matter. That still existed. It may have toned it down just a little bit depending on what tube you used. Speaking of what tubes these do use 6J1 tubes. And I just found overall it's just a very thin, lacking in body, has okay tone and timbre, okay detail retrieval and resolution, but it just wasn't a very lush sound. Soundstage wise was wide, but it was too stretched and it was too far, and it just sounded artificial, and then it lacked depth and layering. It was kind of just right here in front of you, didn't really have a whole lot going on in between. When you paired it with the warmer 603, it did bring in a little bit of body to the 602, and it definitely benefited the bass some, helped out taming the upper mids and treble region, but it just was an okay sound. It just kind of lacked life, and it just didn't really drive. And it didn't matter what I tried. I even tried plugging it in as a preamp going into the A2 and then using the A2 with the Wharfdales and with my Sonys, and it was an okay sound. It just lacked life, and it just, the soundstage was not real big, and it just didn't sound real engaging, and it just lacked details, and it's okay. And it didn't matter if it was the DAC or the amp. If you changed the tubes, they really didn't make a difference. There was just not enough of a change and not enough of a difference to really hear anything. And truthfully, the tubes really don't do anything to benefit the sound. They're just kind of there for show, it seems like. And as far as the price tags, he can do so much better for a $120 DAC because he can get way more inputs and get something that actually kind of sounds good. And then for a $100 amplifier, you can definitely do better $100 amplifiers also. You can get JDS Labs and Shit Audio, Topping, SMSL. They all have better options at that price point. Same thing with the DACs. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on the screen, subscription link, notification bell. If you haven't already, please check those off. And then don't forget to give a thumbs up to the video or a thumbs down to the video. Check out the links down below for information regarding tier lists and music recommendations, music that we used during the review, and how you can contact the channel, follow the channel, support the channel, all kinds of good stuff down below. Check out the links. And don't forget to enjoy the music, and honesty is the best policy.